All right, welcome to the November 7th edition of Uncle Bobby's Country Corner, where real men don't play. The theme for tonight is, where are we going to go? And the reason that I chose that title is the city of Los Angeles, where we are right now on Crenshaw Boulevard, in the heart of what's left of the black community, is undergoing incredible transformation. And as a result, the question becomes very relevant. Where are we going to go in the event we get bought out, not pushed out, bought out? And what are the implications of that? Our guests today include the two people sitting to my left and my right. To my left is a newly minted American citizen. He actually has dual citizenship in Nigeria and here in the United States. He's a real estate entrepreneur. Welcome to Uncle Bobby's Country Corner, Kola, Akingbade.
Hello.
And to my right, it's a foreign thing tonight. I got names I'm having trouble pronouncing. Is another real estate entrepreneur and a publisher. She has two books. One is called Real Estate 100, The Teen and Millennial Investment Blueprint by Anthony Lee and Lisa Puerto. Did I pronounce that?
It's perfect.
Correctly? And then she has another book called Real Estate 100, The Teen Home Buying Experience by Lisa Puerto. Welcome to Uncle Bobby's Country Corner. And on the telephone, we have a man that I've known for over 30 years. When I met him, he was a councilman in the city of Inglewood, and he went on to higher heights. He was a state assemblyman, and he presently resides downtown in the city of Los Angeles as the council person for the 9th District. Welcome, Curren Price, to Uncle Bobby's Country Corner.
Thank you, Bobby. It's good to be with you and the other guests tonight, and your listening audience.
And so, Curren, my theme tonight is, where are we going to go?
Uh-huh.
All right, and one of the questions that I want to pose to you right off the bat is, how have you managed to stay in the seat that you presently hold in light of the fact that the demographics for urban Los Angeles has shifted so dramatically?
Yeah, that's a good question, Bobby. And I think I've done it by being a good public servant. You know, meeting the needs of the citizens that I represent. I've always had the opportunity to represent a multicultural, multi-ethnic constituency, from Inglewood, my service in the legislature, when I represented parts of West LA and Hollywood, to serving on the council now where I represent South LA. And so I think it's about being accessible, it's about being honest, it's about being a good listener, and about being able to get things done. And so that's I think that's been my secret, and certainly I think that's important as a public servant in any endeavor.
So when you speak of getting things done, what are some of the accomplishments that you're most proud of?
Well, thank you. I think there are a couple of things. One, we've been focusing on improving the quality of life, you know, for the citizens in the 9th District and citywide. And so I played an instrumental role in increasing the minimum wage. That goes up to $15 in another couple of years, and that makes a great big difference for individuals who are struggling, trying to work 3 or 4 jobs to make ends meet, and who are trying to find their way. So improving the minimum wage was a significant achievement. Health care benefits, again, many people take it for granted. Now it's in the law. We've also been able to ban the box on applications for employment. You know, you check a box if you've been convicted of a crime, and you check that box, and you don't get an opportunity. We think that's not fair. And so the Fair Chance Initiative bans that box. And again, I think, that's been something that the citizens that I represent are very concerned about. You know, we have a high number of folks that have been in jail, that have been incarcerated, but who are making a change, and they deserve to be given that second chance. We've also been looking at getting our streets clean and green, and so we removed almost 4 million tons of trash, debris, bulky items from the streets, from the alleys, from the parkways over the past 4 years. We've put hundreds of trash cans on the corners that didn't exist before. And finally, we're looking, trying to make sure that we are creating job and employment opportunities. And so all of our major projects that are coming online, the Reef, or the soccer stadium, or the Coliseum renovation that's going to take place, or even the Lucas Museum. We're requiring local higher requirements on all these projects. In other words, we want to make sure that folks who live within 5 miles have preference on jobs, and similarly on business opportunities. So we think it has to be a holistic approach, addressing issues associated with quality of life, and so it's keeping a clean and green environment, providing employment opportunities, getting the streets clean and green. We spent about $40 million in fixing up all the parks in our district. Parks are a very important part, especially in an area that's under-parked as ours is. But we want to make resources available for not only our youth, and in the district, a third of the population is under 18. So we're looking at not only our youth, but also our seniors. And so I think that kind of a comprehensive approach has certainly given us some success, but there's also a lot of work still to be done.
So, Curren, let me ask you, actually for my listening audience, because it's pretty diverse in terms of parts of the country and in some instances parts of the world, what constitutes the 9th District of Los Angeles?
Well, roughly the district is bounded by Washington Boulevard on the north, about 95th on the south, Normandy Avenue on the west, and Alameda on the east. So that's the South LA or South Central. As I mentioned, the population is about 250,000, 80% Latino.
Whoa. Did you say 80% Latino?
80% Latino.
Wow.
And, 20 years ago, the district was 80% African American.
Mm-hmm.
But interestingly enough, while the demographics have changed, the issues have remained pretty much the same. People seeking employment, seeking better housing opportunities, cleaner streets, better recreational facilities. These are the issues that people have been complaining about for the past 20 years. And I'm happy that we've been able to make some progress on them as we're moving forward.
So your district encompasses downtown L.A., correct?
It encompasses a portion of downtown. I have L.A. Live.
Well, that's downtown.
I have the convention center. I have the convention center. I've got the USC. I've got Expo Park. It's going to be home of the Lucas Museum, already home of the Science Center and the African American Museum and the Natural History Museum. So we have some iconic resources. But the district also has the highest rate of poverty. The highest rate of dropouts are in the district. The highest level of unemployment is in our district. So we've got a lot of work to do.
You can't help but notice in the 9th District, because of the structures that you mentioned, an explosion of growth that, in my experience in being in Los Angeles since the early 90s, unprecedented development. What are the implications for the district and the city of Los Angeles as it relates to the level of new development and renovation and whatnot? Well,
we certainly want South LA to benefit from the explosion in development that's occurring. We will have to be careful, however. We don't want to displace people in that development. But we're seeking, listen, we've already got the highest concentration of affordable housing projects in the district. We want to have some market rate projects. We don't want to push people out, but we want to make sure that individuals from a variety of income levels have opportunities to live and be a part of the community. And I think that's what folks are looking for. We want to make sure that the kinds of amenities that are available in West LA are available in South LA. I've got a shopping center at Central and Slauson. That first shopping center probably in 50 years in South LA.
You're talking about the Juanita Tate Marketplace?
Exactly. Juanita Tate Center, anchored by a North Gate, the Panda Express, a Yogurt Land, CVS drugstore, Bad Burger, the kinds of stores that you see on the west side that you normally don't see here in South LA. So we want to make sure, again, that those shopping and amenities are available. We're excited about the village. It just opened up at USC with a Trader Joe's, a Target, a number of shops and restaurants. And so again, we think this is all part of the maturity of the growth and development of South LA.
So, Curren, how do we integrate the entrepreneurs and small businesses that are currently fighting for survival, if you will, into the dynamic of this explosion of growth in the 9th District? Well,
as I said, in all these projects, we're requiring local hire, local involvement, local participation. In other words, we want to make sure that folks who are living in the area have a chance to be employed and in work. We're also concerned about contracting opportunities. For small, medium-sized businesses, minority businesses, women-owned businesses, we want to make sure they're getting a piece of the pie. What I've done in our district office on 43rd and Central is establish a business resource center. Again, so that folks don't have to traipse all the way downtown to get information, that can get it locally at the district level to be accessible and to be accountable in ways that we haven't before.
One of the things that I've been wanting to ask you about is how do we balance development and displacement? It's an inevitability that some people are going to be displaced. How do we mitigate that?
Well, we try to monitor that. For example, I've had 3 major projects where there has been they were on parking lots. So it's not that houses were torn down to satisfy the project. If, however, houses are removed or residences are removed for a project, I'm requiring a 2-for-1 replacement. So if you're taking out one house, you got to put 2 back. And then on top of that, though, we're just being sensitive to the concerns of folks, especially those who've been living in the area for a while on limited incomes. As I said, I've got the largest inventory of affordable housing projects any place in the city. That's 700 units of housing. These are restricted units, where the rent is restricted according to your income. Nobody else has that kind of inventory. But as I said before, I don't want that to be the only inventory in my district. So I want to see some affordable housing. I want to see some workforce housing. I want to see some special needs housing. I want to see some market rate housing. I think we should be enjoying all the activities that this economy offers. But we have to be sensitive. We have to be aware, and we have to be willing to tell developers no. And we've done that in occasion when the projects just didn't fit with what's going on in the community at the time.
So how do you actually go about enforcing some of the guidelines for developing in the 9th District? Because one thing to have these inclusionary practices as a part of the language of these contracts, but how do you actually enforce that?
That's a very good point, and that's why we have development agreements that spell out specifically what the project is supposed to do, what the developer is supposed to do. We require community benefits, and so in addition to local jobs, there's support for parks, for recreational programs, and we make sure, again, that these requirements are spelled out into a development agreement, which can be enforced and enforced by the courts, as opposed to just a good faith that we'll get around to when we can kind of agreement.
So the next question that I would pose to you is this homeless crisis that we have throughout Los Angeles, but acutely so in South LA. What are some of the initiatives that you are either involved in presently or looking to implement to mitigate the explosion of homelessness in Southern California?
Well, we're doing a couple of things, and you're right. The 9th District probably has the second largest homeless encampments in the city. It's something we're not very proud of, but it is a reality. And we're seeing an uptick in homelessness with our youth, transitional age youth, with our mothers, with kids, and so it's a real problem. So we've done a couple of things. I allocated almost $250,000 for additional outreach workers to work out of our district office on 43rd and Central. These are the folks that go out to the encampments, establish relationships, tell folks what's possible, encourage folks to take advantage of programming. So they're supplementing the efforts of LASA and other efforts of the city. In addition, once a week we're providing showers, portable showers. They come to 2 locations in our district, and again, it's just an ability to provide some of the basic services that individuals should have. And so we're very pleased with that. We're also going to be implementing a safe parking program where individuals can come park their car on the lot of a church in a safe environment, receive services, and then have a chance to sleep at least safely during the night. Again, this is an experimental program. We'd like to see it rolled out citywide, but we are excited about partnering with the organizations to do that in the district. And then finally, we're trying to identify storage places. And again, that's a big problem with our homeless population. You know, you've seen them on the streets with a bunch of stuff. And if we're serious about getting people off the streets, we have to find a place for their stuff to go. And so we're trying to identify proper and appropriate storage places where individuals can leave their belongings during the day, particularly for those that are seeking employment, seeking to get back on their feet. They need this kind of help to make sure that their goods are safe. And so we want to support them the best way we can.
Now, is LETT in your district?
Yes, Trade Tech College is one of the most important resources in our district. We're proud of the unique role that it plays in educating and re-educating our constituents. And they've been instrumental. They were instrumental in our Promise Zone application. That's a designation that provides extra benefits to community-based organizations within the geographic area.
The reason I asked about LETTC, there's a encounter group that meets the first Thursdays of every month in the architect department under the leadership of Marcella Oliva. Are you familiar with Marcella Oliva and the encounter group?
I've met her on a couple of occasions. She's a pretty dynamic instructor.
Absolutely, and she has engaged a number of organizations and institutions to address a number of different issues, and one of which is the homeless thing. And I have a gentleman that I'm working with very closely by the name of Wayne Fishback, and they're doing some cutting-edge things to deal with accommodating the need for not only housing but a holistic approach to, you know, allowing people to re-enter the mainstream, if you will.
Right.
And that's something that I would like to engage your office in the near future.
Absolutely. We are always willing and anxious to partner and work with individuals and organizations. In fact, we're going to be having a symposium for our faith-based community so they can better understand what the opportunities and programs are associated with Proposition H and HHH. Your listeners will recall Proposition H provides housing, much-needed housing dollars in the LA community, and the HHH is going to provide services. And so we're excited about bringing programs with services together. But again, we want to make sure that the institutions in our community are familiar with these resources and that they're able to become more actively engaged as a part of the solution, not the problem.
You know, in the last few years, we've seen a lot of foreign investment dedicated to the downtown area. What's been your experience dealing with the flow of money coming from abroad into the downtown area? Yeah,
well, it certainly has been rather prolific. There's a great deal of EB-5 money that's there, and that's a program that permits individuals who invest $500,000 to go up to the front of the line and getting a green card. We haven't seen that kind of investment yet south of Washington Boulevard, but we know that as zoning changes, as density changes, especially near transit-oriented development areas, you know, where we want to see density, we want to see a lot of bodies. We think there are going to be more opportunities for those kinds of developments.
Now, in regard to the recently implemented gas tax. What impact does that have on the 9th District in terms of streets and curb and gutter type of situations from your vantage point?
Well, we haven't benefited from it yet. We know that the purpose of that tax was to beef up the infrastructure and resources, especially in underserved areas. And by all accounts, District 9 qualifies as a underdeveloped area. Our streets are in bad shape, sidewalks, trees. We've allocated, as I said, several $100,000 of discretionary money to trim trees, to fix sidewalks, to repair the streets. But we need to do more. And so we're pleased that the mayor has implemented a process now where the areas with the greatest need will be getting the kind of financial support that's going to be so important if we're going to be turning the infrastructure around. So while we're anxious to receive the monies from the gas tax, right now we understand that there are going to be some other competing interests, of course, for those funds, and we want to make sure that the interests of the underserved areas are not overlooked.
As someone who has been involved in politics for over 30 years, I want to expand the conversation to get an opinion on you as to what it's going to take for the Democratic Party to emerge once again as a force in local and national politics.
Well, I think we just got to be strong, and we got to be persistent. We have to certainly have strong values. We have to have goals. We have to have a plan. And I'm confident that Democrats are going to be regrouping. I think the election in November was really a wake-up call, and it's encouraging folks. So we see it already. Folks become more engaged, more interactive, more involved. People are running for office at a rate we've never seen before, and I think people are realizing that they have a responsibility to play in making sure that our government is the kind of responsible and resourceful institution that can make a difference. So I'm hopeful and I'm excited about the future.
So what are your ambitions as a politician? Well,
I just want to keep doing my job as a council person. I got elected for a 5-year term, and I'm enjoying that. Looking forward to completing a number of projects that we've got started, and I'm going to be serving as long as people will have me.
Now, we talked about the shift in demographics. As an African American, what would you suggest we do, again, with the theme being, where are we going to go in the event that we get bought out of South Los Angeles? Yeah. What would you say is a part of the prescription for stabilizing what's left of what was once a very vibrant African American community in this part of town? Yeah, well, the community, as you know and rightly indicated, has dissipated. Folks have gone in the Inland Empire. Sometimes folks leave the states, returning back south. Mm-hmm. We need to try to encourage folks. Listen, our population in Los Angeles, I think, is hovering around 7 or 8%. Really? Wow. Yeah. At the same time, our political posture has really remained unchanged for almost 30 years. And so I think that's a response to the sophistication of our voting community, but also for elected officials that are being responsive and that are doing the job, meeting the needs of the constituents that they're serving. There are very few African American only seats left at the state level and certainly here at the city level. So our elected officials have to be resourceful, we have to be responsive, and we have to be able to get the job done. So, as we begin to wrap up this segment of the show, first of all, I'd like to thank you for remaining true to who you've been all of the many years that I've known you. And we started out in kinship with the late Muhammad Nasruddin and recycling black dollars, and right. And you actually was running a business at the same time you were pursuing your political career. Yes, I had a little quick print shop in Inglewood. Right. PDQ. Right, exactly. And what do you foresee as Inglewood emerges once again as a city that has experienced a great deal of resources flowing into that city. Is there something that Inglewood can learn from what you've done in the 9th District to become, more amenable to African American participation in this new prosperity?
Well, that's a good question. I think we just have to always be vigilant, and it takes the efforts not only of the elected officials, but advocates like yourself have an important role to play, being a voice, raising questions, expressing ideas. And we have to encourage that kind of collaboration and communication. Frequently people in our community just don't get involved. They don't get engaged. And so, one of the biggest obstacles, people ask me, who's your biggest enemy? The biggest enemy is apathy. People not being engaged and not being involved. And it's true for immigrants, individuals who say they're going to be here just for a short period of time and end up staying for 20 years, or individuals who are born here and who've never voted, or who only vote sporadically. We all have a role to play, and we've got to get engaged and involved. And Bobby, let me say, that's why programs like yours are so important. You've always been an activist, always been one who's not afraid to communicate and to bring people together. And that's one of the things that this program does, aside from being informative and educational. It brings folks together, and again, I thank you for your service in that regard.
Coming from someone that I have the utmost of respect for, I appreciate you saying that. And periodically, man, I want to be able to, bring you back into this sphere, if you will, and particularly as it relates to the relationship I now have with LETT. Okay. And I'll be, reaching out to Angelina and laying out some of the things that maybe we have an opportunity to collaborate on that would enhance the quality of life in the 9th District and beyond. And as I complete this, I want to again thank you so much, man, for taking time from a very hectic schedule, man, to share some of your views about where we are as a city and the kind of challenges that are being faced on a daily basis. So thank you, Curren, so much for stopping by Uncle Bobby's Country Corner.
Well, thank you, man. It's always good to be with you, Bobby, and I appreciate the chance to come back periodically. And next time, hopefully, I'll be able to join you in the studio.
Looking forward to that, brother.
With your guests and your listening audience. So again, thank you much, and keep up the good work.
Curren Price, ladies and gentlemen, the new 9th District of Los Angeles, So thanks again, Curren, and we'll be in touch soon, brother.
Thank you, Bobby. Appreciate you, man.
All right, we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be right back. those were some very soothing sounds provided by OG Portis for me this evening. Quick sidebar. Last night on PBS, they did Chasing the Train, a tribute to John Coltrane. And it reminds me of how important it is to establish legacies that endure the test of time. And subsequent to that, my guest tonight here in studio, Kola Akingbade to my left, and Lisa Puerto to my right, are seriously engaged in the work that they do and the concept of establishing a legacy. Lisa, you've written 2 books, Real Estate 100, The Teen and Millennial Investment Blueprint, and Real Estate 100, The Teen Home Buying Experience. What was the motivation for writing those books?
That is... Hi, Bobby, and thank you for having me on your show. So excited and stoked that you're taking the opportunity to share your platform. I'm a little bit sore in the throat because of the expo that I attended. But this book and this concept actually was born out of how do we fix the now? Because we're always in the present moment, and it's teaching the current generation. If we don't want to be reactive to the changes that are so happening so abruptly, it's being overwhelmed like boom. We should be positioning our children, the next generation, to learn what I am coining as real estate literacy.
So we had a conversation before the show started tonight. For people outside the Los Angeles area, right. There's a building within walking distance of here.
Oh, right.
That was the domicile of the Urban League, and she informed me that it's no longer in the possession of African Americans. And when I'm gonna pose this question to both of you, and
sure.
You at first. What is the long-term impact when we lose institutions like that?
Initially, I would look at it from an ownership perspective. Especially as you shared the history of this building. Mm-hmm. That's ownership perspective. Everything around us, and those who are aware of my platform, I talk about the ownership of real estate all over. What Councilman was addressing was exactly that. He's talking about an entire district made up of businesses, housing, commercial, agricultural, industrial, manufacturing. That's all real estate. This is a real estate man. That's what he's operating, a real estate business. And so from that perspective, when we lose a place like that in terms of an entity and ownership, we have just ceded ourselves from a legacy. And when you talk about passing it on to the next, and then we open the doors for other entities, businesses, individuals to now put on their own influences that we may not be part of the conversation, part of the opportunities, part of just being a part.
So, Kola, again, congratulations on your new citizenship here in the United States, but you still hold citizenship in Nigeria. And I got to add this aside. Having been exposed to the African culture through friendship since college, 40 plus years ago, with the African students. And one of the things I found interesting about dealing with the African population was everybody was a king, the descendant of kings. Mm-hmm. In actuality, this brother comes from a royal family in Nigeria. What is it about growing up in that environment where there were a number of expectations and then coming to America and finding a way to immerse yourself in this culture that has motivated you to become a part of the real estate discipline, so to speak?
Yeah. Again, thank you very much, Bobby, for having me here on today. So, growing up from like a place like Nigeria, for example, every single person growing up in that environment will have a concept of competition and, a great deal of you have to have some kind of confidence at the same time, and it's important. For me, one of the things that I took away from Africa, I learned how not to be so sentimental. You was talking about a certain building, that is no longer, like in the staple of the African American. Well, my idea is totally, completely different, Bobby. In my opinion, there's only one building in the United States that is not for sale, and that is the White House. Every other building, every other building is for sale, and every other building will be sold. So one building is no longer in my possession. Okay, so because we in real estate, we always have to continue to march forward. Let's acquire some more properties. We can, the same group that had that building, so they can acquire, a whole bunch. They can acquire bigger and better, and this is the way Africans think. So I'm not gonna allow myself to feel bad or to become handicapped, concerning that which I lost. But I'm going to look at everything else before you, Bobby, you can acquire, and that's the way I look at that.
Well, I was going to take off on the White House not being for sale, and I'll simply say that we may disagree about that.
They will never sell it. The ownership might change hands. We have different residents. Different residents in the White House. But look, okay. So real estate to me is the only thing that real estate represents to me is opportunity. And in the African American community, my sister was talking about how we have to continue to educate and people can be real estate literate. Well, if you are black or you are Hispanic, you better understand that 98% of the chances of you becoming a millionaire will be through your real estate holding. Most of us will not have the business that will allow us to become a millionaire. Most of us will never have the opportunity to have such a high income. After all, even if you are pulling in $250,000, dollars a year, it might take you 20 years to become a millionaire anyways. Because, with high income comes, more responsibility. Bills pile up, right? So the advancement in this community has to do with your real estate holding. My sister, she got a great idea. Teach people, how to acquire and how to hold on to it. And again, you cannot be sentimental. When the price is right, you have to let it go.
Fantastic answer. Especially when I look at the fact that we do make a lot of emotional decisions in the African American culture, and it takes me to the next phase here. The inevitability of change is irrefutable. So, what outside of what he just said should we be focusing on to adjust to these changes that are all around us? For example, I have a friend that stays 5 minutes from here. And last week during Halloween, his house was submerged with white people who have moved into View Park, and they trick-or-treating. And my first reaction was an emotional one. It's like, what is going on? All right, I've learned since then in a conversation I had with you a few days ago that one of the premier real estate companies in Southern California has opened an office in this area, and I'm seeing more and more outside forces come into this community as buyers. So from your vantage point, how do we make the necessary adjustments not to just be completely removed from what used to be a predominantly black community?
I think from what I've seen and from just the work that I've done is from an education standpoint, and that's why I keep going into the real estate literacy aspect of it, because there are programs available, there are funds available, and it's people, and I really appreciate having this conversation with a young lady who was hard hit, and she said to me, "Oh, I ever heard you were in real estate," and she had gone through her phases of being upset because she had an eviction notice. She had to leave. She was not in a rent-controlled area, which means you got to go because this building is now it's changing hands, it's turning over, things are changing. And she said something to me that resonated so true and just confirmed just the work that I've been doing. And she said, after doing my research, I had to take responsibility for not doing anything about it when I had the opportunity. And she said, now that I know, where do I start? And I'm going to get out of the shame box, which is what I mentioned earlier. The shame box of us saying that, yeah, my family did come from maybe a renter community, and this is why I've done the books and the programs and the workbooks, is because it's a mindset shift. Real estate is not buying shoes. You just don't go and buy shoes, and say, I want that one, and it's just easy. It's an easy purchase. There are things that have to come into play to position somebody to do that. And for a lot of people, it's getting out of that emotional standpoint, because a lot of us don't want to be accountable for how we've been spending and turning up our money, right? And I say this in a way when I'm addressing a certain demographic and a generational demographic. The younger generation, as we know right now, is the largest demographic in the country, superseding the baby boomer generation. And they are going to be in the next 5 to 10 years, there are going to be many and a lot of multimillionaires made in this era. And so right now, we have a great opportunity to be literate and to be positioning ourselves to where we're shifting our mindset from, no, I'm not going to go buy rims. Guess what? I can take that same $4,500 and put it towards something outside of possibly LA County. LA County is expensive. LA County is expensive. Mm-hmm. But there's opportunities outside of that.
Mm-hmm. Now, the way appreciation is happening right now in LA County, from both of y'all vantage points, where are we in the bubble? In your opinion? Then I'm going to ask you the same question.
Where are we in the bubble? See, that's one of those things where everyone is perceiving and anticipating the bubble, because we're looking at the numbers, we're looking at the price point. And right now what's driving that is the fact that the cost relatively to borrow money is still cheap. And are people positioning themselves? Are we positioning ourselves to use that to buy? And there's a whole bunch of other factors, Bobby, that we still haven't dealt with 10 years ago in the financial crisis and the housing crisis that still have not been addressed, because we still are dealing with that Band-Aid. And during our last administration, the Obama administration, there were programs and money brought at an all-time low to get people in the door. And now that's starting to change, and we're starting to see that change. And again, I think, as my brother here was saying, in terms of everything's for sale and looking at real estate as an opportunity, there are a lot of people that were very comfortable and not seeing it as an opportunity to get in the door. What we're seeing now is this huge awakening, and also being seen as a perceived threat of the bubble. But as we're talking about holding real estate, unless you're an investor and you're flipping, I can understand how that may impact you. But we're talking about you as an owner-occupant with a long-term game plan. You're going to ride it out either way, because your equity is still building, as long as I hope you do intend to continue to pay your mortgage, which will reduce your mortgage, the amount you're paying, thereby increasing your equity.
Okay. Now, Kola, wages have remained stagnant pretty much for the last 30 years. And the people that got hurt the most in 2007, the collapse, were people that just kept taking money out of their homes. For somebody that's looking to purchase a home now, what should be their mindset to avert getting a house that they cannot ultimately afford?
Well, Bobby, so during all that time, the meltdown, I was pretty much a loan broker. I dealt with the financing aspect of real estate. And I don't think that, I'm not going to buy the idea that most of that happens, because people will get in the house that they can't afford. Well, some of that is that, okay? I think it's just everything starts from the top. The loans they were offering, they know that you really, they're just not offering good loans. They are making it possible for you to get in. Look, I like to keep things simple. In real estate, it's simple, okay? Our counterparts, the white people, they don't care about none of that. When the opportunity is there, you participate and you run it out with them, and you save money and you diversify, your money. That's what we have to be concerned with. I'm not concerned about what happened in 2007 and 8. That's what I would call an isolated incident. We've never seen that before. And in our lifetime, you and I and my sister, we would never see that again. Yeah, we're going to see the market go up and down. We prepared for that. But what we saw, that's just not going to happen again. So I will never, ever, ever, ever allow that to even touch the way that I'm going to think about real estate. So, but let me back up, real quick. Okay, the minorities, the blacks and the Hispanic and even the Asians, we love to live in the inner city, in the metropolitan area. Okay, so same thing. Look at the case in Venice. Venice used to be predominantly black. Back in those days, okay? When I got in real estate, it's mostly black in Venice. So, but let's look in LA, look at an area, this general area, Lamont Park. It's going to be unrealistic expectation for us to think that this area will just remain black. These are prime properties. These is a well sought after area. They allow, the people, okay, so I'm going to say the white people, for a long time, they won't come to this area for whatever reasons. But right now, you see them walking their dog in Lamont Park. So, and if someone approached me concerning my property in Lamont Park, and the price is where it needs to be right now, I'm going to say, I'm going to hold on to this property because black people have to stay in this area. No. In my opinion, wrong tactics. I'm going to name my price. You want to pay my price? I'm going to take my money. Now, I'm not going to the Inland Empire. Forget about that. So you move out of Lamont Park. Why not move into Hollywood area? Why not downtown LA? Why not Silver Lake? Why not that other area? You can upgrade. You can upgrade just because, my property is worth, I feel my property in Lamont Park is worth, about $800,000. Somebody wants it and they want it that bad. They are willing to offer $1.2 million for it. I'm going to leave just with my toothbrush. I'm gone. So I will take my money now, but I'm not going to the Inland Empire. Forget that. No, that is the mistake that most black people are making. In my opinion, it's not the fact that they sell, but they sell and they want to sit on the money. That is where the issue is. If you want to do something else, why not buy a whole bunch of laundromats with your money? The whole idea is not where I live. The whole idea is that I will continue to excel financially. This is where the focus always have to be, but the expectation that the Lamont area will be black area, that's a pipe dream.
So, what are some of the suggestions you would make for a young person confronted with some of these situations right now where they want to own property, what are the first steps they should take?
First steps would be, Bobby, of course, consulting, finding someone that is in the business and having that dialogue. One of the things that I do, I actually have a show that what we're doing is featuring the very raw and uncut of real estate. I had a young girl who was 24, and she applied for a loan, and she said, this is the first time. She said, I actually really felt naked. She said, I felt so vulnerable. It's very different from applying from a car. And I said, right. Again, the shame box is coming up, and it's showing up in a different way, in a different light, which a lot of us, when we talk about money, not everyone is comfortable in talking about money in our relationship with money, which means we have to be accountable for our spending habits, what we have been doing with that. So that's the first step. And this is why there's a space to create a conversation about what we should be doing with money and how we move that money. It's a mindset shift. I'm going to keep going there with it because that's what this whole movement that I have, the nonprofit work, is a mindset shift because it, as my brother is here talking about, is financial advancement and, yes, leveraging the real estate, especially in that area that you're talking about, Leimert Park. That's a generational area. So actually, it's not that people are saying, yes, I don't want to sell. It's hard to get into those areas. Those are generational places where someone has died or there has been some financial constraints that has caused that. So the onus falls on their children, right, who may not have been having that conversation and are not prepared. So I'm going to go to the mindset, and it comes to making the numbers work. Does it make financial sense to you? Because real estate is not for everyone. And that's why I say real estate literacy.
Step one. Okay, we have just moved through this hour so rapidly. I would like to invite both of you guys back at a later date to kind of just take another look at, some of the things that have happened subsequent to this particular show. How do people get in touch with you?
You definitely can contact me direct. I would leave a phone number, 323-488-3265, if they'd like to learn more about supporting real estate.
Say that one more time.
Absolutely. It's 323-488-3265. And to learn more about the work that I do through this country's first nonprofit organization that is real estate focused. And we empower the next generation, the young adults as young as 11, to be empowered, to learn real estate as a career, and the literacy aspect. And our website for the nonprofit is realestate100youth.org.
One more time.
Realestate100youth, that's youth.org. And you can learn more about what we're doing and support, especially it's tax time, so think about us to support and open the doors for the next generation.
So if someone wanted to purchase a copy of your book, how would they do so?
So definitely you want to support indie publishers like myself and visit our website at realestate100.net. And it is available on over 70 online retailers. And that's just a great avenue to start to support. And I love that Bobby's about that recycling and group economics. So this is definitely your local indie publisher doing something just really nationwide and inviting people to be a part of something amazing because I have interns right now that are in their 20s that are learning the industry, and they have an opportunity to decide, albeit they want to be in sales, albeit they want to be an investor, or they just want to take that information back home.
So, Kola, how would one get in touch with you?
Thank you very much, Bobby. So my phone number, they can, contact me directly at 310-4094. Again, the number is 310-4094.
Do you have a website?
I do have, I have a website, which is a ministry website. So the best way, really, they can reach me at 310-4094. And my email, I have an email that is out there, and it's my full name is KOLAAKINGBADE at yahoo.com. Kola Akingbade at yahoo.com.
Okay.
Best way to reach me, Bobby.
Thank you so much. As we close out, I always want to acknowledge Sister Portis for allowing me a platform to, share some views and illustrate models of possibility and best practices. We were not on last week because the space is undergoing renovations, and I want to salute her for her persistence and belief in planting a flag in this community, and there'll be better and brighter days for Morris Media Studios as a result. And in closing, I'd like to say that many years ago, the Temptations did a song called Ball of Confusion. People moving out, people moving in. Why? Because the color of your skin. Run, 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 but you sure can't hide. And here we are dealing with the dynamics of that very relevant song all these many years later. And it behooves us not to get distracted by all of the noise that we are inundated with each and every day, and kind of just bring that noise level down and our antenna up to understand that just like every other entity in this country and the world, we have 24 hours in a day, the 7 days in a week. If you're not satisfied with how your life is working out right now, take a look in that mirror and figure out what it is that you want, and then be willing to commit your waking hours to affecting positive social and economic change, first and foremost for your family and yourself, and then impregnating that spirit with all those within your sphere. So once again, I'd like to thank the people who have continued to watch this show and expect me to continue bringing people into this studio or via the telephone that are indeed models of possibility. And what we want to do is to elevate in a time when there's so much crazy mess going on. Let's not be discouraged nor distracted. So thank you for letting me be myself once again. We'll see you next week.